Hello, my name is Ciarán Quinn. I'm the Research Support Librarian here at Maynooth University. And along with my colleague Fran, Callaghan, the Research Data Management Librarian, we're going to look at data resources that are available through Maynooth and more generally. So I'm going to look at the primary data sources, secondary data sources, and qualitative data sources. And then Fran is going to look at the quantitative sources, online and digital data, and big data. So within Maynooth itself, there's a number of different collections. There's the John Paul II Library that has the general collections and digital collections, and that's generally the more kind of current kind of collections in the general collections. Then there's special collections and archives, and that's the post-1851 material, and that's also housed in the John Paul II Library. There's the Russell Library, the pre-1850 collections, they're over in St Patrick's College, Maynooth. And then there's the Castletown House collections, and they generally relate to things like the large estates in Ireland, and they're down in Castletown House in Selbridge. So how do you access the collections? So your general point of access is through library search, which you'll find on the library homepage, and you'll see then special notations for where the particular types of material are. And there's also separate then special collections and archive search tools. This is the library search tool that you use. Again, you just put your what you're looking for in the little box there. There's also an advanced search option that you can use. And then for the special collections, you have an option there. You can go straight into the Russell Library collection. Special collections and archives in Maynooth are the college collections. Again, that's part of St Patrick's as well. And this is a guide they have for special collections and archives, just if you want a bit more detail on it, accessing the collection and so on, copyright issues, conservation. You can pop in there. And they also have a very useful blog they produce, which highlights certain aspects of the treasures that Maynooth has essentially, and also any news that's coming up on the collections generally. The MU Digital Library, there's a link into that on the library homepage, and that'll isolate the different types of collections we have in there, different types of papers and so on in collections, and you can click into those individually and take a look at those. Now from the electronic sources, so these are the ones you'll find in the library A to Z, which you can filter down to just primary sources, and you'll find things like the Dublin Castle papers, parliamentary papers, state papers online, letters, for example, of W.B. Yeats, Archives Direct, that's the British Archives in Kew, Empire Online, and a number of other different sources for primary sources. A really good collection of primary source material. You can see there's 17 databases altogether in that collection, and they're all accessible. And there's also newspaper collections. So for example, the Irish Newspaper Archive, British Library newspapers, international newspapers, lots of different types of collections of newspapers in there. And again, that covers from 23 databases. Historic and current newspapers are covered in that. There's also the Maynooth repository, and that would house dissertations, for example. That would have the PhDs and research masters from students in Maynooth. And we'd also have then additional listings in the library A to Z of other listings of dissertations worldwide that you can access. I just thought I'd mention SAGE research methods as well. Obviously it's not a primary source database as such, but very good for planning out your project, looking for statistical tests and so on. So, very going to be an integral part of the whole research process. And they'd have a lot of books in there as well, podcasts, videos on all aspects of research methods. So worth a look in conjunction for looking for your sources. Then secondary data. So with that, you're looking at things like library search again. Again, that would, for your peer-reviewed academic journals, your books, your ebooks, your reports, and so on. And then there's also an A to Z of databases that you can go into, and they will be multidisciplinary, subject-specific, huge range of databases that you can look at as part of your search. Again, Mural, there is an open access repository that just covers publications from Maynooth academics. But there's also then under Open Door, that's a global directory. So again, you can go in there, search by subject or by particular item, and you'll find open access material from around the world in different repositories. There's also one there, Re3 Data, the Registry of Open Data Repositories, and that's specifically at the data side of things. So you can look for research data in there. So qualitative data sources, a little bit different, but luckily it's one that Maynooth are very well positioned to help you with. And so we're looking after the Irish Qualitative Data Archive, And this frames the parameters and standards for archiving qualitative data within the Irish research community and gives guidance as well. So it gives you guidance on how to use the data, but also what data is available. And my colleague Fran Callaghan looks after this as well, so he'd be a person to contact about that. And it's a central access point for qualitative social science data in or about Ireland. And it's part of Digital Repository of Ireland, which of course would have a lot of additional material that you could check out as well. And these are just some of the collections in the Irish Qualitative Data Archive. So, for example, the Growing Up in Ireland studies, Magdalene, New Urban Living Collection, lots of different data sources that you might want to have a look at. And they're all accessible there. Some of them are directly accessible, and some of them you just get in touch with the archive and organise access. And that could be limited, for example, to third level academic institutions, for example, to access that material. And there's also links in there to other useful archives, and mainly Irish related, but there will be a lot of other materials available as well, and that library will be happy to advise you on that as you go through your research or studies. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you over to Fran Callaghan, and he's going to talk to you about quantitative data, online and digital data, and big data. So thank you.
Thank you, Ciarán. Ciarán introduced us to the qualitative data sources, and in particular the Irish Qualitative Data Archive. The companion archive for quantitative data, called the Irish Social Science Data Archive, or ISDA for short, is hosted in UCD. As well as being a great choice as a deposit archive for archiving quantitative datasets that you have created, it is an excellent source of freely available Irish social science data which you can reuse in your own research. Please note though that ISDA does require you to complete a data access form and is not necessarily fully open. Other, more miscellaneous sources of data for you to consider include GitHub, which hosts a very specific type of digital data, i.e. source code, very useful for computer scientists. Zenodo, which is the European Commission's multidisciplinary data archive. And for even more sources of data, please consult the Repository of Research Data Repositories, or RE3 data, which is browsable by subject and discipline, as well as being fully searchable. Big data refers to extremely large and complex collections of data made possible by the recent proliferation of ubiquitous digital technology, the Internet of Things, and cheap, voluminous storage technologies. Big data can be structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. Big data can grow exponentially over time, and these datasets are so huge and complex in volume, velocity, and variety that traditional data management systems cannot store, process, or analyze them. Examples of big data include data.europa.eu, the EU's data repository, the World Health Organization's data repository, the World Bank's data repository, Amazon's registry of open data sources, and others. For more help or guidance on any of the data sources described in this talk, please reach out to Ciarán or me directly. Thank you for your time.